Hello and welcome back to another episode of Empath Sisters. I'm Shelly
Hi, I'm Bev.
and just wanted to welcome you all in today. And we are looking forward to our podcast episode today.
Yes, we are.
Yes.
So excited.
And
why are we so excited, Shelly?
Well, because we have a special guest today, and his name is Kevin Naidoo. He is a spiritual coach, yoga teacher, and trainer. We are super excited to have him aboard. And
absolutely so honored to have Kevin with us today.
For sure.
We've been looking forward to this moment. So here we are. It has arrived. So welcome, Kevin. How are you today?
Welcome.
Thank you so much. I feel so grateful and blessed to be here. So thank you for the invite. And I'm doing great. I'm just feeling really grateful to be here with you both.
Good. Well, we are very grateful to have you.
Yes, absolutely. And share you with our listeners.
Yay.
Yes.
Awesome.
Amazing.
So share a little bit about yourself with us, Kevin.
Okay. So I feel like I've lived about 7 lives. I feel like I'm a bit of a cat sometimes.
Yeah, I feel like we can relate.
Right.
Yeah.
So as Bev and Shelly mentioned, I teach yoga. I'm also a trainer, so I certify new teachers. I do spiritual coaching as well. I used to live a very, very different life. I grew up struggling with self-worth. Self-worth was a really big struggle for me. I was just trying to fit in, trying to find friends, trying to just be accepted, trying so hard that, you'd sit there and take the bullying because you couldn't feel you had a voice. So you just sit through it and take it. So that was my journey. And because of that struggle with self-worth, I started doing drugs and alcohol at a very young age. Again, trying to fit in, trying to be the cool kid, trying to just find acceptance. So that started at about 14. And it was the start of a journey that went into addiction for about almost 15 years, to a place where I just numbed myself out. Because I didn't want to feel, I didn't want to look inside. I was scared to see what I was going to see, and all those things. So I did everything in my power to run from Kevin. So much so that I even put Kevin away in a box for a lot of years, and I created a completely separate name and separate identity, and no one knew Kevin except for my immediate family. And that addiction just kind of took over. It took over to a place where I lost all sight of me, and it got really dark. It just got really dark. And at about 24, it was so dark that I consciously tried to take myself out. I knew what I was doing. I had a handful of pills, and I tried to take myself out. But I woke up on a floor about 3 days later, and to this day, I don't know what happened in those 3 days. I have no memory. It's black. I just remember waking up on a floor in my apartment in London, England. And because I was in that aspect of addiction, that didn't do anything to wake me up. I was at the pub that same day after opening my eyes. I was so deep in that space.
So can I just ask, even in that experience that you went through of the 3 days, as you're mentioning the next, like you just got up and then continued to go to the pub, between that moment at all, was there any feeling of like, oh my gosh, like, why did I do that? Or like any questioning, or was it just continue on, like there was no questioning?
Yeah, there was no questioning. It was at a point in my life where I had zero awareness. I was so used to just numbing myself out, and even more used to running away from myself and doing a really good job at it. I feel like I started running right at 14, and I ran away in so many different countries, and
Wow.
the addiction followed and followed and followed, um, and continue to follow. And the shadows inside, the pieces of myself that I didn't want to look at, they kept on getting stronger, and they kept on getting bigger and
Right.
building more, because I was still in this dark place and still just really scared, scared to feel, oftentimes. And in my work now, I've really noticed that it's a commonality with a lot of men, that they disconnect from feeling sometimes. With a lot of men, like, the world teaches us to feel physical pain, but to
Yes.
feel emotional, it's a completely different thing. And I was so disconnected from that, and I didn't want to feel.
And
Excuse me.
part of, and not meaning to interrupt, but it's a part of society. We are
Mhm.
taught, and as not us, just women, but even men are taught, don't cry, don't do this, you're
Right.
not in touch with your emotions. And so that's
Mhm.
part of the stigma as well. And so when you're saying that you were running away from yourself, well, of course, because you didn't know anything different other than to
Exactly.
do that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that
Mhm.
avoidance of going
Mhm.
in. And if you do
Mhm.
that, or you show emotion, then you're
Weak.
considered weak, or you're not
Right.
man enough, or
Yeah.
it just, yeah, it's
Mhm.
such a sad thing.
It's
Yes.
such a hard one, right? And just
Yeah.
off of what you said too, Bev, is like, my whole life I was called the sensitive one, my whole life,
Yeah.
but it was as a negative.
A
Like,
negative.
why are you
Yeah.
being so sensitive? Why are you so
Mhm.
sensitive? And da da da. And it's like, I tried to run from that sensitivity. And only now, at 46 years old, I can see my sensitivity as my greatest gift. But in
Yes.
that point, I was like, everyone in the whole world showing me that it's a negative,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Absolutely.
So
Then you kind of want to just, that's where I would assume that most would feel that they want to just close themselves off, because we're viewed
mhm,
so negatively. And it's like, well, I can't even just be myself, because that's literally who I am. I am
right,
sensitive, right? So then all of a sudden you
right,
just feel like, well, I shouldn't exist because I'm not
exactly.
accepted for who I am.
For
And
who I am, that's
totally.
it.
And I could even say in my practice with a lot of my clients, that is a theme that I hear a lot,
Mhm,
of course, is
mhm,
where they'll say, oh my gosh, so when they start to come inward and discover themselves and get back in touch, they'll say to me, wow, like as I remember going, like as I was growing up, my parents always just say, oh, you're so sensitive. Like they were always told, and
right.
they recall that and go, oh my gosh. But now they view it like, wow, okay, but that's not a bad thing. And they're finally just discovering that now in their adult life, which is like,
Right.
I'm like, oh my gosh, it's sad that it takes
Mhm,
us so long to get
mhm.
there, to go like, it's okay to be.
Yeah. Absolutely. And growing up as a man, but growing up as a man, but I've led with my feminine side my entire life. It's just way more comfortable for me, and that's just where I
Mm,
reside. But
yeah,
the world shows us man is supposed to be the provider, protector, is always supposed to
right.
be strong and courageous and tough and take on everything and hold up everything, and not supposed to show emotion or
Yeah.
sensitivities and all those things. And I feel like we're in a huge transition in the world the last few years, as women are really rising and taking back their power and giving voice and using their voice, and men are almost coming into this influx of not knowing their role now,
Yeah. So true.
and things
Yeah.
like that. So I know I've been working with a lot of men in men's groups the last year or so, and
Amazing.
that's been a theme, and a commonality.
Yeah.
And it's a reason why I wanted to start a men's group, is so we can have these, excuse me, sensitive, compassionate conversations
Yes.
as men in a safe space, realizing that these aren't weaknesses, these
That's right.
aren't hindrances, these are, you know, um, aspects to give us full permission to actually go inside and feel into who we are, and come
Absolutely.
into that place of the essence of who we came into this world as, not the
Mhm.
masks that we use every day.
That's right. Absolutely. And that's
Mhm.
part of the journey of soul coming to the physical plane. We get to feel. That's why we come here. So we are
Right,
supposed to feel
right.
all the emotions, and all emotions are good. There's no
Mhm.
good and bad. And that's also something that
Absolutely.
society has taught us, is that, well, we shouldn't show or feel angry or upset or sad. Those are considered negative emotions, but they're
Mhm.
actually not. All of the emotions are part of who we are, and they come up for a reason, and we're supposed to and to move them and express them, good or bad.
Mhm.
Well, they
Mhm.
consider them bad, but they're not bad. They are
They're not
good,
bad. They make
right?
us who we are. They make us who we
Exactly.
are, I mean, right? And
Absolutely.
so that's been my journey into back into feeling. And as an addict, I yoga came into my world. I was living in the Caribbean at the time, and yoga came into my world. And the first class I did, I was bawling my eyes out like a 2-year-old, and I had to call
Oh,
my mom. I was like, I don't know
wow.
what's going on, mom. I don't know what, I can't
What
stop
happened?
crying. I don't know what's
Wow.
going on. And my mom's my best friend and my greatest teacher, and she just talked me through. And the second day into yoga, same thing happened. Bawling my eyes out, here I am again calling mom.
Yeah.
And by the end of that week, I was like, okay, this is the first time I'm actually feeling in
Yeah.
probably 20 years. And I definitely still had my foot in the addiction door, but here was
Okay.
this other piece that was coming in,
Yeah.
that was in allowing me to move and feel into Kevin for maybe the first time.
Yeah. Was that
Um,
scary?
it
Just,
it was so scary. The tears was scary because I hadn't
yeah.
cried in such a long time, not
Right.
like that and uncontrollably. That it was scary because as you start to feel. For me, I started to feel a lot of heat inside. And then that heat turned into sadness. And that sadness turned into anger. And that anger, turned into another emotion. And it just was like this influx
Yeah.
of emotions surrounding my entire inner landscape of myself. And it was like, you can't run anymore.
No.
Um, so yeah, it definitely was scary, but it also, on the other side, this scary was this magic,
Oh,
right? This
absolutely.
magic was like, wow, something is there. Wow, I can actually feel. Wow, it started to give
Mhm.
me a sense of empowerment
Yeah.
inside of me for the first time in my life. And I continued to practice. And I ended up moving back to Canada and being in Vancouver. And I started practicing at studios in Vancouver. And I went home to Saskatoon to see my mom and dad for a visit over Christmas. And my mom sat me down and she's like, man, she's like, Kevin, I see all these changes that is going on since you started doing that. I'm so proud of you. Have you ever
Oh,
thought about doing this? Doing this as your career and teaching and helping people from your journey and from your perspective. And
yeah.
being transparent. Before my mom was even done talking, I cut her off and I was like, I'm not good enough. I can't do it.
Mm,
And I
yeah.
talked it all the way out.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
I got on the plane the next day and I flew back to Vancouver. And a week later, I got a letter in the mail from my mom. And all it said was, I believe in you. I believe
aw.
in you, and your dad believes in you, and you go for it. And in that
Yeah.
letter was a plane ticket to India,
Oh,
and
Sweet.
wow.
a check for $5,000 to pay for their training. And
Wow.
she's like, you go. And I left a week later. And the
So you
morning
did it.
I did. And the
Nice.
morning,
Yay.
the morning I left, I quit. I quit alcohol, drugs, meat, fish, seafood, dairy, cigarettes, all in one day. It was a
Wow.
Oh,
hard day.
wow. Yes, that would have
That's
been a hard day.
that's
Oh my
that's a
gosh.
lot. And like that's cold turkey. That's very hard for a lot
I'm
of
always
people.
like
Yes.
this. I'm very much black and white. That's the
Yeah.
way I know me, and
Yes.
that's how it's going to work. I have
Yeah.
to be all or nothing.
All or
Hmm.
nothing. Yep.
know, I'll start treading towards it or something if it's not all or nothing. And
Right.
it was a hard day, but there was a sign that happened that day too that was just kind of confirmed it. I quit everything that morning. I went to Vancouver airport. I'm sitting waiting, and they called my name on the intercom. I'm like, okay, what's that all about? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I went up, and the lady's like, we just bumped you to first class. I'm like,
Oh, nice.
me? I was like, I've never had that in my entire life. I was like,
Oh
why
my
did you bump
gosh.
me? She's like, well, I don't know, we just bumped you. I'm like, okay, that's amazing.
Wow.
So I had a flight to India on first class, and I took that as like another sign from my mom,
For
Yeah.
sure.
and a confirmation, right? And
Well, what I get from that is like how I look at maybe like your team supporting
yes.
you, going like, Kevin, congratulations. Like, here's a gift that you just cut everything.
Yeah.
And then right away, it was like something so great and positive that came forward for you. Like
Right,
an offering, right? It's like you
totally.
made an offering and an offering came back to you.
Yeah,
That's so beautiful.
it
I
it
love
was
that.
it was incredible, and I just was like, okay, this, here we go. And I got on the plane and I sat down. I'm like, okay, Kev. And I remember saying this to myself. I'm like, here we go, let's go.
Yeah.
And I checked myself into an ashram for 37 days for training, and it was 14 hours a day, 4 a.m.
Wow.
4 a.m. until late in the evening, every day, no days off, full out, practicing philosophy, theory, meditation, everything in between. And like in the Caribbean, I was bawling my eyes out every single day. And again, I'm on the payphone, I'm calling mom, and
Yeah.
she's talking me through.
Yes.
But I kept on going through, and the memories started coming up as I
Yeah.
started diving into these feelings. I started looking at things, not being able to run from things, but started to actually understand what processing things means
Yes.
as I started looking at it.
Yeah.
It's like
And
connecting to yourself, right?
Yeah.
Finally
Yeah.
connecting to yourself. And
absolutely.
I can sort of relate to that. I also have taken yoga myself, and I know that powerful feeling of emotions that can come up because you're holding it back from your body, right? And your body
Oh,
is
yeah.
coming into yourself, and you're connecting,
Mhm.
and that's the beautiful part of, the spiritual side of yoga, not,
Mhm.
the stigma of yoga. There
Right.
are stigmas of yoga out there, right? Where they
Yes.
just think it's just this and that, but traditionally it is about connecting yourself and being
Totally.
one, right?
Yeah.
So
Coming
it's
back
just
into the
beautiful to hear
body.
you say that. So
Mhm. And just feeling into, that mind, body, and spirit,
that's right.
Yeah.
even though the world just shows us the feeling of the
Yes.
external skin, right?
Yeah.
And this physical
Totally.
body, which is just our vehicle in this life. We're consciousness. We're going to continue to thrive and grow and expand as
Yes.
forever and ever. So
Yeah.
that was, India was just like, it gave me a sense of confidence for
Yeah.
probably the first time,
Wow.
getting into my body and really getting into my body. My
Yeah.
body was so broken after being an addict for so long that, standing up, I couldn't even touch my knees standing up,
Right.
let alone go all the way down in a forward bend. But
Yeah.
there was a lot of humility that had to be happen there too. And it just was a huge catalyst in my life.
Yeah.
Oh, I believe it. It
Yeah.
sounds so healing. Like I literally keep getting like this vision of when I go back to the beginning of your story of trying yoga out and like the first day and the second day and just bawling. And it's like almost like I saw the little Kevin inside you going like,
Mm.
I'm still here. Like finally almost was able to like push the door open. And then, now you're in India going through this training and, still crying and going through all the things. It's like, it's like, as you're going on the plane, it was almost like you just took his hand and said, okay, Kevin, like we're doing this,
Mhm.
what's this going to be like, but we're going together. And it was just like this beautiful merging of like connecting back with yourself. And as you're doing yoga and
Absolutely.
going inward, of course, like when we stuff emotion away, it gets stuck in our bodies. And then
Mhm.
when we have movement, it creates the opportunity for that energy to flow when we go within. And that's the beautiful part about that. So I could only imagine that at that
Yeah.
time for you, it would have been so much unlayering and unpacking for you.
There was so much, and just off of what you said, Bev, too, about, that you hit it right on the head when you said, that connection with that little aspect of Kevin, because there was a merge that happened there. And
Yeah.
it was right after that training, or during that training, where I was able to connect with little Kevin for the first time, and have that starting point. But after the training is when I printed this photo and I put it in every single room to start my relationship back with little Kevin.
Oh, that's so
Cute.
beautiful. You're so
Um,
cute.
because I didn't tell him I loved him for, my whole life. And
Yeah.
he felt disconnected. And a realization that I had during training was, how can I be whole if I'm disconnected from little Kevin, from my adolescent self, from other aspects that have cast away and forgotten about, like the shadow
Right.
aspects that we forget about, right?
Mhm.
And that kind of leads me into, that next piece of my story, where after teaching for about 5 years full time, um, getting having having losing my vision literally overnight, um, as
Wow.
glaucoma came in overnight, and um,
Like literally overnight?
literally overnight. So
Wow.
so the morning I was washing my face. I was just doing this. I was washing my face with water and doing this. And for some reason, when I was coming down with my hands, washing my face here, my my right hand stayed, my left came down. And I
Okay.
realized in that moment that I can't see anything through my left eye.
Oh my
Then
goodness.
it took away my right and covered my left. And I was like, I can't see very much in that right eye. So
Wow.
then I called and went for the doctor, and then he sent me to a specialist, and they said, your left eye's gone. The pressure was at 40.
Oh wow.
Normal eye pressure is 12,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
because the pressure was high, it took out your optic nerve,
Oh
Yeesh.
wow.
and my
Yes.
right eye was down at 20%. And he's
Wow.
like, this is your new life. There's nothing we can do. This is your
Wow.
new life. And if
Right.
I'm not going to lie, like, I reacted like
Of
most
Mhm.
course.
people would.
Mhm.
Um,
Yes.
and I left the hospital, or left the doctors, and I got in my car. Probably shouldn't have, but I
Yeah.
did. I went home, I grabbed my passport, probably shouldn't have, and I drove myself to the airport. And I'm like, screw it, I'm out of here. I just didn't want to deal with it. I was
Just
like, I'm just
escape.
going to run away again because I'm so used to it. But I
Right.
sat I sat in front of the airport for an hour, um, thinking, processing, contemplating. And I know me well enough to know, if I got on that plane, I will go blind. And because I wouldn't do anything about it, I would just carry
Right.
on moving through life.
Right.
So I made a conscious decision to stay, and life had to be modified
For
during that
sure.
process.
Yeah.
Teaching, moving through life, all of these things. And there was no option. So I'm not going to lie, I was in a bit of a dark place, a bit of
Yeah.
a kind of
Yeah.
giving up place.
For sure.
Um,
Yeah. Well, that I could imagine that that would have felt like a trigger for you, like
Huge trigger.
that was something you've done in the past. Then you go and do all this work, connect back with
Mhm.
yourself, and then
Right.
boom, you get this trigger. And then it's just,
Mhm,
that's why you reacted. But then that
mhm,
hour sitting at the airport, you're like, okay, you kind of come back to yourself and go, okay, this isn't really how I'm doing things now. I've made this
mhm.
progress. So, I mean,
Exactly.
amazing that you were able to just stop yourself and
Right.
analyze that and make that conscious decision to go, okay, I'm staying and I need to deal with this and face it head on, right?
Right.
However
Because
that will look.
totally, because if that would have happened before I went to India, I would have
Yeah.
jumped on that plane.
For sure.
Yeah, for
Would have
sure.
completely jumped on that plane. But, as I started just to navigate life again, my beautiful mom and dad, they're the type of people that don't take no for an answer. They're gonna look and
Yep.
research. And that's what they did all night with no sleep. They researched and they started sending me information on stem cells. And
Okay.
at that point, I didn't know anything about stem cells. And I reacted and I pushed it away. I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm good. I'm just like, I'm good.
Don't accept help.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
I always struggle with receiving my whole life.
Most of us do.
Right.
Yeah.
But my sweet dad, he kept on sending emails. I kept on sending more information. I started reading it. And, at end of the day, I just came to a point and I was like, you know what? An option's an option. And you know what? I'm going to take this option. So we started the process, and a beautiful Brazilian lady had a healthy baby boy and matched me on stem cell. And this clinic was in Thailand. So that process started, but then the next piece was like, I can't afford this. This is $30,000. How am I can even do this? And again, like I said, I struggle to receive.
Yes.
So my beautiful wife, she did this without me knowing. She knows I would have reacted.
Yes.
She started a GoFundMe page.
That's right.
To raise money, and the beautiful community in like less than 4 weeks raised this money for me to go.
I remember donating.
Yeah, thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
It was so amazing.
Yeah, the community came together, and I went public with my story, not because of the GoFundMe, but I went public to show that there's always an option,
Yeah.
So when things come up, it's like, look beyond what you're seeing in front of yourself and look beyond to see. So I was on CBC, on CTV, on John Gormley, and all these things, and the people raised the money, and that was incredible. One thing happened during that process, and it honestly shocked me. My mom and dad got hate mail. My wife got hate mail. I got called out all over social media from yoga teachers, a couple yoga teachers, because I'm going for stem cell treatment. So here's why. So there's this misconception about stem cells, a very big misconception about stem cells. So a lot of people think that stem cells come from a dead fetus, which is false. It comes from a newborn baby. You actually are allowed to keep your stem cells when you have a baby now in Canada and a lot of countries. But people don't know what it actually is. So I got all this hate. Like, I couldn't believe the hate my mom and dad were getting in their mailbox.
Wow, that is crazy.
That Andrea was getting. And then two yoga teachers just slammed me all over Facebook because I'm going for a stem cell treatment, and everything all over there. And I didn't even say anything. I remember commenting on that post, and all I said was, you know what? I was like, I wish you knew where I was and what what I was going through, but you're going to place a judgment on me even though you don't know what I'm going through right now, right? And it's really easy for people to throw judgments without knowing what anything is when they're not sitting in your shoes.
That's right.
And everything, right? So it's
I'm sorry your family and your wife all went through that. That's just terrible.
Yeah, it is what it is. And it's like, for the most part, it was nothing but love and support. And I look at that, and it's like, I look at my stem cell journey, and I look at me even losing my eyes and going blind. I look at it as like one of the greatest gifts in my life. And I look at that now because I ran from myself my entire life. Now, it's amazing. Our body manifests when we're not looking at our stuff.
That's
and
right.
my body manifests by taking my eyes out.
You didn't want to see yourself.
Right. So now there's no option. You have bandages on both eyes. You have to go inward and look at yourself, right? And look at every single thing. So that's why I look at it as a gift, because it's been such a beautiful gift to journey and uncover and drop the masks, drop the layers, pour in unconditional love, and really start to see that me as Kevin and all of us as individuals we each have our innate gifts inside of us
That's right.
that
We
make
do.
us who we are, right?
Yeah.
And that was a journey for me to connect to my gifts. But beyond that, I had my 40th birthday in the hospital during that time. And on that day, I had bandages on both eyes, but I bring that day up because it was a huge catalyst in my life. I remember using my hands to get myself to the bathroom, propping myself up in front of the mirror, even though I couldn't see my reflection. But it was the first time in my life I told myself I love myself.
Oh,
Um,
beautiful.
and I haven't missed a day since then. And it's 6 years down the road. And I start every day by that. Because,
Amazing.
right, it has to start with us.
Yeah.
It does.
That self-love has to start with us. And then we can love, everyone around us, the planet, the world, the community, creator, all of it. But it has to start with us, so we can get out of our own way.
Yes, most definitely.
Yeah,
Get
and
in
a
our
lot of-
way a lot.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and a lot of us do that. And,
Mhm.
like your story is just very beautiful and almost overwhelming,
So
because it's
profound.
just so, yeah, so much. And, there's a lot of people that don't know how to do that and think that they are going inward and doing the things. But
Mhm.
like you were saying, like we were going to talk about shadow work and just really
Mhm.
getting into connecting with themselves and really looking
Totally.
at themselves. And you did that, which is just like Bev said, it's very profound. It's just very, it's like, I don't even know how to explain it.
Yeah.
It's just
It's hard to
something.
find the words,
Yeah,
right?
and that energy, it's almost, yeah, like, I don't even, like I said earlier, I don't know how to explain it, but it's just that
Mhm.
energy of just listening to even you say those things. It's just amazing. I'll say that word,
Wow.
amazing.
Yes.
And it's I find it really funny that with shadow work, and I'll go into that, but with shadow work, it's like we're all taught to be scared of shadow work, of
Yes.
shadow, of darkness, right? Of
Yes.
blackness. But that's where we reside in our mother's womb. We're in blackness, we're in darkness. Why is it generated as a negative
Yes.
on all these things? And that's why I look at it as shadow work. Because I can look at shadow work as like it's such a great teacher. It allows us to transmute poisons into nectar, and all those things. So shadows are just anything that generates shame, blame, and denial inside of you. Those pieces of yourself that you cast away, those pieces of yourself that you really hide, that you don't want to speak and share with anyone around, those pieces of yourself that that you feel like ashamed of,
Yeah.
embarrassed of, you don't want anyone in the world to ever know about. But it's like, and I had a lot of those pieces, but I would say the first piece with shadow work is giving yourself a safe space to do this work, and for me, it's like I usually ask my wife to leave the house so I can feel free in my emotions. If I need to yell, scream, cry, whatever it is, to just have freedom to do that as I'm doing it.
To be vulnerable, right? Like that's
Yes,
part of it. It's being
absolutely.
vulnerable. And a lot of us don't like to do that because it is scary and you
Mhm.
don't know what's going to come up,
Yes.
what emotion is going to come up, whether you're going to be angry, sad, or happy, or like, because it doesn't necessarily have to be, what, like I've said, negative emotions.
Mhm.
It can be happy ones,
Totally.
It
but
can be
we're
beautiful.
so used to, like, going back to the beginning, we're so used to society telling us how to feel and what to do in any situation. And so we, like said, Bev said, even pushing it down, we are afraid. We're afraid to be vulnerable. and to be vulnerable with ourselves and in front of other
Mhm.
people, because we don't
Mhm.
want to be judged, right?
And that's
For
that key
being
word
that.
right there. That's
Yeah,
that key word right there. It's
yeah,
judgment, right? It's like,
exactly.
Totally.
and us as humans, we get so creative with that we sometimes judge our own judgments.
Yes.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's
Absolutely.
it's crazy, and we do that, but we do that, and it's like,
Mhm.
um I feel like shadow work for me was the biggest catalyst to self-love
Yes.
to me, right? Because it made me look at my journey. And
Yeah.
sometimes we can be, as humans, scared to look at our journey because we're like, well, it's filled with mistakes and filled with
Yes.
this. But when I look at my journey, I can look at it in a perspective by seeing it reminds me of how strong I am, because
Of
we get to
course.
see how many times we've been knocked down, and we get to see in that moment who picked us up. We did. Even
That's
in our
right.
most broken state, we still picked our own self up. And
Yeah.
just that, it shows it gives us a sense of empowerment, a sense of confidence, a sense of courage to keep
Yeah.
moving forward.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Right.
Absolutely.
So
And
that's, yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I love how, when you want to go within and just have that space to be vulnerable, that you ask your wife to leave the house even,
Mhm.
because even that, just having even your partner, someone you're so close with, we still feel sometimes that we can't be that vulnerable, that there's
Totally.
going to be judgment if we're
Mhm.
screaming in the other room.
Right.
Right. And it's
Right.
just like, just to even have that. So I love that you even just brought that piece in, for our listeners. If you are creating that space for yourself to go within to do some of
Mhm.
that work, have a space where you are completely alone, so you can allow yourself just to be free, because that's
Totally.
when things happen.
That's when things happen, and
Yes.
and allow yourself to get messy with it. It doesn't have to
Yeah,
look all proper. Get messy, move your body if you need to move, but don't move it
absolutely.
in like a controlled way. Just
That's right.
have freedom of movement with it, and just
Yeah.
allow your expression to come out, maybe for the first time.
Yes.
Yes,
You know what I
absolutely.
mean? Maybe like your true essence. And that's where we get to see it's like, who are we?
Yeah.
Like, who are we really? And how does it feel to be me
Yeah. Yeah,
inside of?
that should be fun. That should be
Mhm,
fun. We should want
mhm.
to do that and to discover that, whatever that looks like. It's like, okay,
Totally.
well, if I'm going to go and say, take a course, well, I don't know what that course is going to be like until you're in it, right? Then you
Mhm.
experience all the things, whether it's scary, it's fun, it's hard. We don't know, but we're like, oh, I want to do that. And we should
Totally.
look at going inward and doing that work as something that's fun. It's like, who cares? We don't know if it's going to be scary, or it's going
Mhm.
to be fun, or there's going to be laughter, or there's going to be the shame, or maybe there's some guilt that's going to come up. It's okay, because you know what? You can feel all those things in anything else that you're doing in your life anyway.
Right.
So,
Exactly.
so if you're going to
Exactly.
go into that space,
Mhm.
the thing that we should be learning is that just don't judge yourself.
Yeah,
Don't judge what's going to happen, and just let it
totally.
happen.
Just let it happen. And if
Yeah,
you're about to judge yourself in that moment, let it go and see how it feels to not judge yourself. I
absolutely.
remember that first time I didn't judge myself, because I judged myself my whole life. And it's
Right.
a weird feeling to catch yourself and flip the script. It's like, oh, it's
Oh,
like
yeah.
you suddenly give yourself permission.
Yeah.
Oh, and it's like, okay.
Yeah. It's like, what a concept, right?
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
easy, but yes, it's so hard.
Hmm. Totally. And it's with shadow work, I really feel working hand in hand with shadow work is a mirror practice. At least
Hmm.
for me, because it's instilling that self-love back inside of you.
Absolutely.
By and noticing if you have a resistance to your love, and also noticing how many conditions you place on your own love for your own self.
Hmm.
You
Absolutely.
really recognize that. Um, and I take mirror practice to a second level after 21 days. And when I teach shadow work and we're going into the second piece of mirror practice, I love how the body shows us and our mental mind shows us, because the second piece is we stand in front of the mirror, but this time we close our eyes. And now we verbally say, I love you to yourself. But now we get to see who's reflecting back to us. Is there our
Right.
adolescent self? Is there our inner child self? Who needs that love right now? Who's
Exactly. That's
calling for that
beautiful.
love right now? Who's asking for that relationship to be held right now? Who wants to be nurtured right now? And that's a key word
Yeah.
too, because I didn't even know what that means until about 6 months ago. How to nurture myself. How does
Yeah.
that feel to nurture yourself? Right? And we all deserve to nurture ourselves.
For
Absolutely.
sure.
We're so
Mhm.
good at trying to nurture everybody else. That
Right.
of course it comes back to that we need to do that for ourselves, right?
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
love that you, in your teachings, that you have taken your experience and you bring that into teaching your students. Even I love that, like standing in the mirror but closing your eyes. It reminds me of your story on your 40th birthday,
Right.
not seeing, right? And you go and you went to the mirror, and the first time, even though you couldn't see physically with your eyes, you told yourself you loved yourself.
Mm.
So, it's like, I love that you've taken all of your experiences and your journey and you bring it into how you teach. It's beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, it's been such a transformational journey, and it's work every single day, but it's
Of
work
course.
that I get excited about every day.
Right.
Like 4 a.m., like I jump out of bed at 4 a.m. I'm excited to get me to my altar and sit here and connect with my guides and do my work
Oh,
and all these things. There's this excitement, and with that excitement brings this excitement for life
yes.
as well. And I heard this phrase a little while ago, and it took me a little while to understand it. And I remember asking someone about it too. And the phrase was living your best life. And I was like, it honestly triggered me for a second. And I was like, okay, what does that even mean? Like, I don't even get it. And I started
Yeah.
feeling into it just for me and my own personal journey, and as well as being here in this present moment right now. And I was like, you know what? I am living my best life, and
Yes.
I'm living it in gratitude. And yeah, that's all I need to do.
That is living your best
Yep.
life.
Mhm.
You have to be. If you wake
Right.
up at 4 a.m. and you're jumping
Yeah.
out of bed to get to your
Yeah.
altar to
Right.
you're so excited to discover what is going to come, right?
Yeah.
What am I going to
Mhm.
get out of Kevin today? Let's go see. I can't wait to find out. It's like Christmas morning is what I'm getting the vision
Right.
of, right? It's like
Right.
presents, right? You just jump and you want to see what's inside. And
Mhm.
that I would also agree, that seems like living your best life for
Yeah.
sure.
Right. And then we get to reflect that feeling out into the world.
Right.
Yes.
And I really truly believe, like, the power of love will always defeat the love of power. And when we can always come back to heart space, we break division in this world, we break
Absolutely.
judgments in this world, and we start
Yeah.
to see each other through the eyes of God, through the eyes of Creator, through the lens of unconditional love.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
To
And
Beautiful.
ourselves
yeah.
and to everyone else. Right. So
Mhm.
Yes.
that's nice.
Absolutely.
Yeah. hmm
Oh my
Definitely.
Yeah.
gosh.
It's
I
very
love that.
beautiful.
So your entire journey that you have gone through now has led you to another amazing piece in your life, that something has
Yeah.
happened. Is that something you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, I wrote a book. I wrote a book. So it's been something I've been wanting to do for years and years, but I'm dyslexic. I'm also ADD, and
Right.
I I didn't think I could do it. I talked myself out of it a million times over. I started about 100 times. I stopped right away, and I just talked myself out. I'm like, I can't do it. I can't do it. And then it's like I made a shift January 1st. And January 1st, I just kind of shifted in, and I came into my altar room and just let go of attachment to what writing needs to look like.
Right.
Let go of attachment to having it look pretty or
Mhm.
neat or edited or whatever.
Perfect.
And it
Yeah.
was like, you
Mhm.
know what? I'm just going to write.
Yeah.
So I called on this man, which is the patron saint of writers, Lord Ganesh. And I started writing with him, and it just poured out of me. And I wrote my book in 30 days.
Oh
Wow.
my God.
That is
It's amazing. Oh,
So
wow.
just like floored, it just came out of me. And yeah, I don't even know how it happened, but it was like, it pulled me into the room to write. It wasn't even work. It was like, it's in me. Here it goes. Here we go. I'm putting it. So
Wow.
it's getting edited right now. And I got picked up by a publisher in New York, and we're on the way to getting it published.
Yay.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
I
amazing. I love it.
I can't wait to get a copy.
grateful.
Yeah.
I'm beyond grateful. It's like everything I'm doing right now, it's like in full alignment with my purpose and doing what I love to do, and, you know, spreading these teachings in an accessible way to all bodies, all social status, all races, all genders, all of it, and just allowing accessibility. I really think that's what we need in the yoga world right now.
Yes.
As a whole, is a little bit more accessibility and a little less just pushing through and forcing things, and moving on autopilot, and a more intentional way to move
Yes. Oh,
For
that's
sure.
beautiful.
and
Oh
Yeah.
my
stuff. So
goodness. Well,
yeah,
congratulations
Yes.
on
thank you.
writing your book and also having it picked up. I cannot wait for it to be published. That is
Yeah.
going to be like what I've just seen through your journey, how, you know, you've been doing all of this work and you keep getting these gifts coming forward, and it's just amazing. And I feel that way in my life on the work that I have done and the journey that I have been on. I have received so many amazing gifts that I'm just like, oh my gosh. And this is how I feel with my clients. I'm just like, I just want everybody to live their best life, to live this
Totally.
way. Because when you are just living and being your authentic self and just going with the flow, it's like almost like just everything just falls into place. It's not hard. It's actually, it becomes so much easier if we just get out of our way, you know, and just go with it. It
Totally.
is so beautiful. And I can
It
see that your
sounds
journey has went there.
yeah, and it sounds so easy, right? And it's
Yeah, totally.
but you know, all these other little things get in the way. And you
Yeah.
know, I'll just say, I was like, that one of the biggest pieces that got in the way, and it might sound weird for me to say this, because this is recent, this is January, right before I started my book, is I cut off all my hair. And that was a
Yeah.
ego hook, because you know, here's Kevin, long dreadlocks, looks like a yogi. You know, there's ego
Right.
gets triggered of valid. Here, you need validation. Here, you got to need validation from there. Here,
Right.
you know, you need to look a certain way. You play the role, and it just triggers the ego. And
Yeah.
beyond that, there was so much attachment in that hair for so many years. I was like, okay. And as soon as I did that, it was like, and this word echoes in my head every day since I did that. It's the first time in my life I feel free,
Ah,
free to be me.
yes.
That's
That's
it. Like
right.
there's so much freedom.
I bet.
Yeah,
I bet there, like, I just see that as being all weaved. Everything you've been through is weaved into your hair, you know,
yeah,
and then just going, okay, I'm done. And
yeah.
just cutting that karmic
Mhm.
tie, right? Just like,
Totally.
boom, done. And
Yeah.
just being free. I
Mhm.
totally, that's amazing. Oh,
Mhm.
I love it
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah. Yeah.
What a beautiful story and journey that you have
Yes.
been on. I am just in such awe of you right now, just sitting here. I'm sure Shelly feels the same way because it's hard for us to even find words, but the best word is just that I feel just in awe. I'm so humbled by your story. It's so profound. It speaks to me in so many ways that it's hard to even find words to even describe the feelings that I'm having right now, but it has spoken to my soul. I know that. And that's why it's hard to find words, because it's a feeling. It's beautiful. And I am just so grateful that you have shared our story with us today, and our followers and listeners. And it's I hope it somewhere in your journey, whatever part of it speaks to somebody in their journey and gives them, you know, courage or strength or excitement to try to go within or to find their own space or whatever it is. I know it will do that. And that was the whole point of sharing and connecting with you about your amazing story. So thank you so much.
Oh,
from
absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. And like Bev said, like she, you know, to let even our listeners and feeling, you know, any, I don't, yeah, like for myself, I, you know, I didn't really talk a whole lot. I was listening and absorbing everything that you were saying, but in some ways, it's like I resonate with you
Mm,
in a lot of levels, but like in a different way, of course.
of course.
You know, and it made me go back to even just what you were like, even what you said about, you know, connecting with the inner child and all that kind of stuff. And it's just, now I'm like, okay, I know what I need to work on. It's almost like I'm starting to learn, like, okay, I'm picking up, you know,
Yes.
different cues and different things of what did Shelly didn't do before where I'm at now. And like,
Right.
I've, you know, I really have gone through a lot of stuff, like you were saying about, you know, with your eyes and stuff. Well,
Mhm.
mine is my heart. And so
Right.
it's like, oh, you know, so then it made me think like, okay, well, there's still work to be done, you know. So
Mhm.
just for that, it's like, yeah, it's amazing and overwhelming.
Yes. Yes.
Amazing, amazing. And it's like, it just for the audience and for anyone listening and anything out there, just really, just really remember to be, when you're doing this work, be really gentle with yourself, be compassionate with yourself,
Mm,
be loving towards yourself, and always remember that you're beautiful,
Yeah.
you're loved, and you're worthy of just you being you, and for
right.
no other reason,
That's
right?
right.
For
So
sure.
shine your very essence, shine your very authentic self out into the world. um
I do have a question for
mhm,
those that are listening
mhm,
and, you know, that are maybe in a, you know, a dark place like you were. What would you, what kind of advice, I guess, or what would you
Mm,
say to those that are in that space and how to kind of like find themselves or come out of that? What would you
right.
suggest?
So I would say a few things. The first thing I would say is, remember you matter. That's the first thing I would say, because when you're in a dark place, especially in a depression place, um, you need to hear those words,
Mm,
that you matter. Because I've been in that place of trying to take my own life, a couple
right.
times, and in that place of giving up and everything, and just come to that place of you matter. Let go of the external chatter, let
mm,
go of the external environment, and put yourself into a safe space with people that are going to support you, love you, and see you just for who you are. and
yeah.
and take it slow. The journey, when we start doing our work, it continues for the rest of our life. There's no
Mm,
end game here. There's nowhere you need to get to here. There's nowhere you need to reach to here. But just, it's a slow journey back to self. So just allow yourself to be gentle and compassionate as you peel back little subtle layers within yourself, because depending on how old you are, there's a lot of layers in life that we have to peel back.
For sure.
Especially if we've been through, excuse me, especially if we've been through trauma and things like that, and have a lot that's stuck in our subconscious, that we haven't seen yet. But as soon as we are able to give ourselves a safe space and a loving embrace, that's when the little person is going to start to speak those words. That's when the stuck in the subconscious is going to start to show and reveal itself. So that's why I always put so much focus on just being in a safe environment to allow it, and allowing yourself to get as messy as you can with it.
Well, and
Don't
just
have
learning about yourself, right? It's about
right,
learning, and that's what we're here for.
right,
We are here to learn,
yeah,
and well, that's what I believe anyway. We're
yeah.
here to learn things and experience things, and that's part of it as well. So,
Totally. And we
uh,
don't always have to be strong, right? We
right,
don't always have to, and strength is different, right? And I'll just give this one
absolutely.
example. At my mom's, it wasn't a funeral, it was a celebration of life. And my mom's celebration of life, every single person there was coming up to me and being like, Kevin, you need to be strong, you need to be strong, you need to be strong. And that's all I was hearing. And then I finally snapped. I'm like, you know what? No, I don't need to be
mm,
strong. I
yeah,
need to be however I need to be. My mom just
Right.
transitioned. I need to be messy. I need to be ugly. I need to be all over the place. but the last thing I need to do is be strong.
And that again is back to society.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
still how we are taught. We
Yeah.
are taught
Absolutely.
that way. We are not taught to express, like I said in the beginning,
Totally.
Just to
not
be.
any of the, like if you feel like you're sad, be sad. Like
Yeah.
if you feel like you need to be this, be that. Like
Yeah.
it's
the
frustrating to hear
permission.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
as you go through the emotions, that is strength.
Right.
Absolutely.
So yes, you're going to be
Absolutely.
strong. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm going to be strong, but it's going to be in all the emotions. That's where I'm
Right.
going to get my strength, is by allowing myself to
Mhm.
cry and to be sad and
Mhm.
to have memories and to be
Right.
happy, and then all the feels,
Mhm.
angry, right? And it's
Mhm.
like through all of that, that's how we know we are strong, right? Just as you shared in
Totally.
your story of everything you went through, was like you were strong through all of it,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
That's how we gain our strength, is that you were the only one
Absolutely.
that picked yourself up, right? So you're the only one. You have to allow this process to happen, because if you
Definitely.
don't, you've learned that, okay, if I don't do that and just, okay, be strong and shove it all down, well, you're just going to have to repeat the entire cycle all over
That's
again. It's a
exactly it.
pattern,
Yep.
right? Pattern
Yeah.
and behaviors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it
And
comes out in the body.
it
Yes.
comes out in the body, or it'll come out even in the next generation,
Yeah,
or
that's right.
what you're coming into this life with from past ancestors
That's
and things
right.
like that. It's like this continuous cycle,
Mhm.
and we have the ability to break any of those generational cycles that are not serving highest and greatest good.
Mhm.
Yes,
That's right.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I want to mention one thing, because it
Mhm.
keeps speaking to me here quite loudly, and I have ringing in my ears. But as you know, when Shelley was asking for you to give some advice
Yeah.
for listeners of, where should they start?
Uh-huh.
And you said, in a safe space that you can be supported and that sort of thing. I know that I have met many people last year who don't have any support.
Right.
They are alone. They have no family, or maybe they have no partner or even close friends or anybody that they feel they can just lean on for support, that,
Yeah.
wouldn't judge them.
Right.
So, in saying all that, it's great finding that safe space for yourself, as
Mhm.
well, of like just a room in your own space of being safe in there and
Yes.
being able to be vulnerable. And also for any of our listeners, if you don't have anybody to support you,
Mhm.
this is what we're here for, this
Totally.
community. So reach out to Shelley, Kevin, or
Mhm.
myself, and let us support you. That's what this is all about, is connection and support. And let's just like get through
Yeah.
things. So if you don't have anyone to turn to, please
Mhm.
reach out. Don't be shy.
I
It's
Yes.
love
okay
that
to
you just
ask for help. It's
I
okay.
love it. I love
Yeah.
that you just said that, Bev. We're all here to support each other's greatness. And every
Absolutely.
single time I teach a class, a workshop, anything, before I close the class, that's what I say. I'm like, if you need anything, if you need to talk something out, if you need to scream at someone, if you need anything, call me. I was like,
That's
I'm not
right.
going to attach. I'm not going to get mad. I was like, sometimes we just need a safe space to just
Absolutely.
talk something out, or to scream at someone, or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
So I love that, and I truly am a big believer in that. We're all here to support each other, and even when we're teaching in large Zoom groups and things like that, and we
Yes.
have people from all over, it's like we still have options that we can split and make small groups, so we can connect and have a little bit more deeper conversations, or share a
Absolutely.
bit more intimately and things like that. So there's always a way, and we're all
Absolutely.
here for you.
And even for those
Absolutely.
that, that do reach out, and like if, like you just said, there's, you can make it and break it into smaller groups and stuff. But at the same time, even if you just want to be there and you don't want to share or whatever it is, just being there for you is,
Totally.
a safe place for you.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's fine too.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
whatever feels comfortable for yourself.
Yeah.
And
Definitely.
yeah, I agree with Bev. And yes, if there is anyone that is listening that doesn't have any support,
Yeah.
we will be here. So reach
Absolutely.
out. Yeah.
Please give
Absolutely.
yourself permission to reach
Mhm.
out.
Yes.
To reach
Yeah.
out and
It
give
starts with
yourself
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I give yourself permission
Yeah.
to receive, and don't
Right.
feel like you
Absolutely.
have to be the giver, and
No.
and take responsibility for others' happiness and place it all on your own
Yeah,
shoulders, right? Because a
absolutely.
lot of us do that too.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we take on responsibility um, from a good intention sometimes, because we do it because we don't want to see other person suffer, or we do it because we're trying to keep them safe. We do it for a whole bunch of other reasons, right?
Absolutely.
But when we can let go of that responsibility piece, I even did it, when my mom passed, I took a huge piece of that responsibility because of the work I do, and I felt responsible that I couldn't save her, and I took that
Yeah.
on myself for a long time, right? And I
Yeah.
use that example because we can be hard on ourselves sometimes when things like that
Yes.
happen, and
Yeah.
we place all that responsibility on ourselves.
Of
But
course.
we
Yes.
can let it go and just be gentle, compassionate, and fully express ourselves.
Mm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I can relate to that myself.
Yeah.
Before our dad had passed,
Mhm.
actually 2 years prior to our dad passing, our dad was a heavy alcoholic, and I had gotten to a point where I just wasn't going to accept it in my life anymore and around my family. And it was really hard for me to do that,
Mhm.
to just say, no, I choose myself, I choose my family. I don't have to do this anymore. But it was so hard. I've always wanted to help him. And just, if you just, would go AA, if you just, all the things, right? And I tried so hard. It was like I exerted so much energy of, talking to the police. Like
Mhm.
I did everything I possibly could. And I even went and met a judge in his private chambers just to see if he could help. And it was like, no, no, no. I tried everything I could. And I just literally got to the point where I got so exhausted. And I literally remember laying in bed, throwing my hands up in the air. And I was like, okay, you know what, God? I literally tried everything I possibly could in the physical plane,
Yeah,
and it's out of my hands, and it's up to you. Like I'm completely letting go. And I'm
right.
so glad that I surrendered,
Mhm.
because it just was a way for me to free myself of feeling like I was responsible. Because as Shelly and I grew up,
Totally.
and our brother as well, is that we were always responsible for our parents because our
Yes.
parents are deaf. And so
Mhm.
we've did so much for our parents. And so
Mhm.
there was just that responsibility. And it was like, no, you know what? I'm the child.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He is responsible for his own life.
Yeah.
And I had to let
And
myself
and
go of
we
that.
yeah,
So
and like what Bev said, like we as siblings, like we all, even our brother, like we all went through that in a certain part of our lives. Bev was
right.
just
yeah,
later down the
yeah,
road where I did the same thing as Bev did. I literally did stepped away from my
yeah,
dad. I didn't speak to him for 2 years because I was
yeah,
like, I can't handle this,
Right.
and it was always on us in a way. Like it felt
Mhm.
like it
yeah,
was always on us. And
yeah.
and it just was always those questions of like, why won't he do this, and like, why
Mm,
doesn't he love us enough,
Right.
to
yeah.
go through this so that we could be a better, family and
Family. Yeah.
whatever, right? And
Mhm.
you know like Bev said too, like, she surrendered and all that stuff, but for me it was after he passed,
Yeah,
Yeah.
for me. And
Yeah.
like,
totally.
even though I did all that stuff before, but at the same time, it was after he passed, and
Right.
realized what it was like for him. It was almost like I went into his shoes,
Yeah.
Mhm.
more or less,
Mhm.
right? And
Hmm.
then it was
Totally.
like, okay, as much as we hated it as a
Yeah.
family and going
Yeah.
Of
through it,
course.
but totally understand about it. And
Hmm.
until that moment, I was like, okay. And that's part of when I started learning not to judge people,
Yeah.
because it was
Hmm.
like, you don't know
Yeah.
what they're going through. You have
No.
Right.
no idea.
And
Totally.
grief is different for everybody.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
it comes in waves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's right at the beginning.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's for a long time.
Yeah.
Sometimes
Mhm.
it's years later,
That's right.
Totally.
and
Yeah.
it's just to allow yourself, but all those things come up, those
Yeah.
feelings.
Mhm.
Oh,
Yeah.
Mhm.
I can
Yeah.
so relate to that.
Yeah, I totally get
Same.
it. I totally get it. Absolutely.
Like, this is all real life. These
Mhm.
are all real
Yes.
things that
All
everybody goes through. you
All
know,
journeys.
it's all
Mhm.
journeys. But
And
yes,
yeah,
I
Absolutely.
love that we're all on board of, being there in support and connection. And
Mm.
just for our listeners, Kevin also offers lots of workshops and you do all kinds of things.
yes, you
So
do.
we
Yes.
will have Kevin's contact info and how to find him and reach him if you would love to reach out to him, which I, of course, highly recommend you
Yeah.
doing. It's amazing. And of course, as the Empath Sisters you're able to reach out to us as well.
Mm.
So
Mhm.
I just thank you so much, Kevin,
Yes.
for coming on today and sharing your story with us and just inspiring and enlightening so many other beautiful souls out there. And yes, from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. Soul to soul, thank you so much. So
Yeah, thank you
yes,
again for, really even just wanting to do this with us. Like I said,
yes,
we're super excited to have you and so glad we did. And I like Bev said, I'm in awe of you and your story, and that's part of who we are as human beings. And we all have a story, and yours
Mhm.
is just
Yep.
so amazing and beautiful. And I'm just so blessed to have you share it with us and our
Mm.
listeners. Thank you so much again.
absolutely. Very
Thank you
inspiring.
both so much. It was absolutely a blessing to be here with you both. And thank you for thinking of me. But even beyond that, thank you for seeing me um, and inviting me on. That was such a beautiful conversation. I could sit here with you both all day.
I was thinking
I
that too. I
know.
was like, we can keep going.
I'm
But
like,
Oh my
we could go
God,
all
this is good.
day. This is amazing.
Thank you all so much.
yeah.
And yeah, just for the listeners, like I said, we're here for you. All of us are here for you. So, you know, I s- just know that you're never alone and you're always divinely guided. Spirit as always has you, and Spirit's always watching over you, whatever you want to call it,
Right.
Spirit, God, whatever you want to say, but you're always divinely guided. So just know you're never alone. And all of us are here to support each other's greatness as we consciously walk each other back home to the very essence of who we are.
That's
Beautiful.
beautiful. Yes, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for that.
Hey.
And for all our listeners, again, thank you so much for tuning in with the Empath Sisters today and our very beautiful special guest, Kevin Naidoo. We appreciate all of you, and we are all sending you love, light, and gratitude wherever this may find you today. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Bye,
Bye, everyone.
everyone.